Hi and welcome to Intrepid Wisdom. My name is Deborah J, and on today's episode, I'm so excited to welcome back Blossom Goodchild. Blossom is a direct voice channeling medium who's been channeling for almost 20 years with the Native American Indian spirit whitecloud, and she's also famous for her connection with the Federation of Light. You are so welcome back, Blossom.
I'm so happy to be here, Deborah. Thank you so much for inviting me back again.
So we decided we were having great chinwag after we were talking the last time, and we were talking about all things manifesting, and we said we would do a podcast together about manifesting because I think it's a pretty cool subject. There's lots of different variations. People call it laws of attraction, manifesting. Really, I suppose it's just about putting your mind on something and bring it into reality. But what's your own experience of it, or what's your kind of opinion of it, or?
Well, I have been manifesting for a long time, and it's very interesting because I remember, when The Secret came out, and everybody, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is amazing! It's amazing!" And I'd been sort of into it long before then, I guess. And also, I think we've spoken before. Like, I really into Abraham and Esther Hicks and their law of attraction, for me, and listening to a lot of Esther's podcasts and things like that, her law of attraction and what I found invaluable. I sign up, I'm doing a big, I sign up for her daily quotes that Abraham comes through, and I have those through every morning, which just sort of keeps you on track. But I just find, if there was one thing, if somebody said, what is the one word you would give about manifesting, I would say vibration. Because it is, people can, they're like, oh, I'm really concentrating on this and I really want this. And, it doesn't matter how much you want something, if you're not on that vibration to bring it in, it's not going to work. And, obviously, do I call you Deborah or Deb or Debbie?
Whatever you want. Deborah,
whatever,
probably
that's
preferably,
right.
but whichever.
Deborah, okay. It's just, I like to get that right. I'd rather people call me Blossom rather than Possum, because they get that wrong. I've been called some funny things in my life. But yeah, I just, where was I, Deborah? It's going
You're
well.
talking about vibration.
The vibration, yeah. I really feel that, there'll be many people listening to this who are well on the vibrational manifestation train type thing, and that's great. But there are people who I think are just waking up to the fact that you can have any. I truly believe that you can have, do or be, anything that you want, really. But you have to, for me, you have to know it deep within that it's there for you to have, to get, to receive. But you also have to understand, I think, which is the hardest part, that you have to vibrate on that knowingness that you've already got it. And so it's like, as much as people might say, oh, I want a Lamborghini or whatever, I don't know why I said that, I'm not into cars at all, but if they wanted that, it's no good saying, I want. You have to know that you have, well, not just know, but you have to feel that you've got that car, that you imagine yourself getting in it, and you just, because, what I've come to understand is that unless you have that vibration within you, the vibration of that thing cannot come to you, because it can't slip in if that vibration isn't there for it to slip into, type of thing. So it's definitely, I feel, about feeling the knowing of what you will be like when it is actually there. And that's the hard thing, because it's not there.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but I don't, but you have, you have to pretend, you have to act as if, you have to be as excited as, in order for that to come to you. How are you on the manifesting?
Do you know what? It's something for you. I've known about it for a long time, probably with the laws of attraction as well, but kind of, I think it was kind of using it unintentionally previous to that as well. Probably not on a big scale, but I kind of liken it to, if you're online and you see something that you really like and you place an order for it and you press the button and you pay, and then you're told thank you. And then that's it. And then you just sit back and you just wait for it to come through the door, because you've placed your order. Like it's, when you place an order online, you don't sit back and go, God, I hope the postman brings it. And I hope the person who gives it to the postman gives it to the postman. And I hope it leaves the warehouse, and I hope nothing happens to it. You don't. You just place the order, and then you just sit there and wait for it to come through your door. And that's kind of how I see manifesting. So for me,
perfect, Deb.
Yeah. And so for me, my understanding is basically the part that stops manifesting from working is when we place the order, sticking our nose into how it gets here, because actually that's not our business. I actually have 2 stickies on my laptop, and one said, God knows the plan better than me. And the other one, I can't read hardly anymore, but it's like the universe or God knows more than I do. So the way I see it is, when I place an order, it's really none of my business how it gets here. It's actually just my business to put out the vibration that I've got it. And
it's so true.
And it's that feeling that it's on the way. And I found when I've worked with manifesting, and I don't mind kind of sharing some of my own tips as we go along as well, but I found that vibration is one of excitement. It's like, if you want that ideal job, how would you feel? Actually, if you got it, you'd be like, oh my God, that's so exciting. So get excited, get ridiculously excited as if it's just happened. And then when it comes into your mind and your mind says, yes, but you don't have it yet, like, doesn't matter. It just keep throwing that up, just keep throwing that excitement, and then it kind of appears.
And it's that trusting as well, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, the trusting, because this timing thing is like, because at the beginning of the year, we had to get out of, we rent, and we had to get out of our house by January the 12th. And we'd known about it, long story, but there was no point finding somewhere earlier because we had to stay till a particular date, and it was smack in the middle of Christmas and all this kind of thing. Like, and so, my husband and I just absolutely knew that the perfect place would come. And there was never any doubt. We had 10, when I phoned him to say, I've just had an email saying we've got to get out of our house in January. I said, you're allowed 10 minutes. You're allowed 10 minutes to be pissed off. And that's it, We are not going to go there, because we thought we were going to be there for a long time, And so we had our 10 minutes, and then that was it. It was like perfect place, better place will come, da 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 da. And it didn't. Good manifesting. It didn't come. And so we had to, I was like, we've got a week left. Come on, it's going to turn up. And it didn't. And luckily we had, my son and his family live, 10 minutes away. And so we went to stay with them for 6 weeks, and all that time still looking. And I was off to do this. I was very fortunate to have sorted out a Hawaii retreat, swimming with the dolphins and doing whitecloud, and that was coming up. And I thought, I need a home to get all this sorted, because I'm off to Hawaii in a couple of weeks and I need to get everything, and still nothing. And then literally this house came up, and it had been dropped in, because everything's gone up in price. It's so expensive, and it came up and it had been dropped in price because people it was too much and everything. So we took this about I think I had 5 days before I went to Hawaii. So we had to move in, blah 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 blah. But in that trusting, it's just the most loveliest house that we've ever sort of been in. It's really, really nice. And so I think as well that I have a problem with that. It's letting go of the when. Yes. Even though you think by now, by such and such a date, I will da 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 da. But I don't think the universe quite understands that, No. But it is. I just feel that trusting, as you say, trusting in the universe, and coupled with your vibration, and and all these things we are going to be talking about. That's what allows it to sort of to happen, really. I am such a believer in it, because I remember years ago when my husband left, a long time ago, and I was left with a little one, didn't have much money, and I was, you know, going out to clean people's houses. I was a miserable person, but I was learning about manifesting, and I really wanted a pair of brown cord sort of legging things and green. It might sound awful, but at the time they were in. They're green cord legging things. And I was like, oh, you know, I don't have any money for this, that, and the other. And literally 2 days later, my ex-mother-in-law came in with a pile of clothes that she was chucking out and said, do you want to go through it? And there were the brown leggings and the green, you know, I needed bunk beds. And it was like within 3 days, somebody said, oh, I'm chucking out my bunk beds. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? When you just, as you say, you put your order in and then you wait and allow it to happen. And it's happening so much quicker these days because the energy is so much stronger, and you know, we're in alignment with ourselves.
And do you know the other thing as well is when you're saying like the control of, like, as long as you want something, wanting anything is a future projection. I want is so different to I have. So I want, yes, as long as anybody is saying, I really want that job, I really want that car, I really want that, you know, fella, whatever it is that you want, yes, you're basically sending out a message to the universe saying, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, which is the only reason you would want something. You wouldn't want something if you already had it. And so I do feel when it comes to, like you were saying, even like the bunk beds, you needed them, but you probably had surrendered to the idea of, you know, they'll come if they're supposed to come. And I think if you can get into that mindset of not I want, but it's like, you know, it would be great to have that. I need it, but I don't have an actual attachment on the concept of it having to be. Because I think I think this is with life in general. As soon as you have an expectation, that word is such a nasty word because it just means no. As soon as you have an expectation, I just feel you're kind of placing a lesson in front of yourself where you're just not going to get it. And it's kind of like a little bit of a sign back to yourself. When you were mentioning the house, I remember one of the first big manifesting fruitions that happened for me was I was living in an apartment and I was going out with this guy, and we wanted to get our own house to rent rather than being in an apartment because I was just sick of being in an apartment for years. And I was just determined to live in a house, not an apartment. Now, renting a house, as you'll know, is a lot more expensive than renting an apartment. In the area that I was living, to get a house was going to be really difficult. They wouldn't come up very often. And when they did, they're usually very expensive. And I remember there was a chalkboard beside the cooker in my apartment. And on it, I just drew this little picture of a house, kind of like what you do in school. Like it was and it even had like a little circular window. So upstairs, there was no window. It was just like a little circular window. And the entrance was in the side of a porch. And I had like a little sign saying the area that I wanted it to be in. And below that, the amount per month, which was quite cheap. And I just drew it for the crack. And what I did was, there was an area where I was living that I always really liked the houses around there. So what I used to do, and I think that this is part of the knack or the trick of it as well, is when I drive home from work, I would play make-believe. And what I do is I used to, instead of driving into my apartment, I used to go past my apartment and turn right into the housing estate where I loved all these houses. So I would pretend in my head, oh, I'm coming home from work. And I would drive in like a lunatic. I know it sounds insane.
No, not at all.
Stalking my house, like, you know, I would come home, I would drive, and then I'd just go back to my own house. Like, it was really weird. And then we had looked at loads of houses. And one day, just as I had given up, and that's the other trick, you have to give up nearly, we found this house, and it was the exact same price. It had the window upstairs in it, and it was in that estate I had been driving into.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like mind blowing. And I had forgotten until I was moving house. and took the chalkboard down. And I looked at it,
Well,
and I was
yeah.
like, oh my God. I was like, this is insane. I think I probably still have it somewhere as well. Crazy.
Yeah, it is. And there is a lot of, it's funny because when I woke up this morning, I thought, oh, hello, I better have a think about all this. And I remembered it was, I got dropped in that in 2018, I did and I had a quick look at it this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I did a video because I decided to do a project called the Game Changer Project, purely for myself, really, because I felt I wasn't doing enough for myself on a soul level or for the whole. So I sort of devised this game changer project. And, and so there was a list, I did a chart, and eventually somebody actually sent me in a proper chart, that you can do on a computer instead of me with the crayons type thing. And you tick it off each day, and all that. And it was, and my thing then, and just to do those things every day, there was a list of them. And if it helps, Deborah, I can give you the link to that little video, which then gives you a little link to the blog I did where there's a graph and everything's written out, just because some people might need something different to try to, to pull them out of if they're on a downer or whatever. But I do remember a thing. I used to be so, and I thought, God, I haven't done that for a couple of years. And my game changer project sort of whittled out, you know how you have these intentions and all that, but after 4 or 5 months, it all petered out. But I used to, on my walks, have my affirmations and my intentions. And a thing I had developed within myself was to say, knowing that these words were very profound in their energy, was I used to say, I've written it down here, but I'm going to try and not look. I know now I am happily vibrating. It sounds long, but when you actually do it as a mantra type thing, so it's like, I know now I am happily vibrating within the highest frequency that enables and allows my divine intention for whatever it may be, abundance to flow through me with ease and grace. And then at the end I used to say, I deserve it, and so it is. And I used to say that particular one 3 times. And I think at the time I had about 8 or 9 different affirmations that I wanted to manifest. And so on my walk, I'd say that one 3 times, and then I'd go on to the next one. And I honestly, by the time, not long, and I needed a new car. I mean, my car was falling apart and this, that, and the other. So I'd think about my car when I was doing that. And that same thing of knowing that that's what I had, and it was all coming about. This was just reiterating and affirming it. And, I got down to about the last 3, because all those other things had actually come into my being. And I did think this morning, God, it's interesting because I don't do that anymore. And I was thinking, well, should I? But in all honesty, there's not a great deal that I need or want. Or, I really am quite like, this is how, and I do think as well that perhaps, and I don't know this for sure, that perhaps we've moved into that state of being now, well, we don't need to do all that necessarily. It all depends what floats your boat, what blows your blouse up, so to speak. But it's like, it's just, if you are on that vibrational frequency of abundance, all in my life is good, just as a whole thing, then that is enough, maybe. And I'm not saying don't do those things, because I think some people, it can be very, very, very helpful. It certainly has been for me in my life of saying affirmations. I think they're really good, but it, there's also that possibility, I think, now that we just have to feel the vibration of happiness, because once you're stay in that vibration, then you just have to think, oh, such and such would be nice, and you know, it'll come because you're in alignment with, you know, with all that is good and your needs. You know, if you have needs, then that's all going to come to you because you're riding high, so to speak, you know.
I also think, like, I remember listening to something not long ago, and I remember being like, wow, that's so true. And I think, you know, we're manifesting all the time. It's not just
Yeah.
when we put our mind on what we want to manifest that we manifest something. We're manifesting everything. And I find, and like even the crappy situations we're manifesting, whether people like that concept or not, I hate to break it to you,
Yeah.
you know, you're manifesting things that you don't want as well. And the more mindful you become over your thoughts, and don't let your thoughts sit at the driver's wheel, and for you to be at the driver's wheel a bit more, that's, I think, where manifestation really comes into itself, because you can start to pick apart, you know, what am I really thinking? And we program ourselves all the time. Like, you know, somebody says to you, how are you doing? Oh, I'm not too bad. I am not too bad. The universe doesn't work with negatives. So the way the universe works, and when I say the universe, you are the universe. I am the universe. So when I say universe, I think we see this as being something that's outside of ourselves. You know, God is outside of ourselves. It's all inside us. So this is just a way of looking at it. But the way, and I understand it, is if you want to manifest something, you should never have a negative word in there. And I studied hypnotherapy for a while. And when you're actually doing hypnotherapy and psychotherapy and writing a script for somebody, you have to be very mindful over how you're writing that script, because when you're putting in particular sentences, which are potential game changers for people, you can't put in a negative in there, because the mind actually picks it up differently. So I am not too bad. Take out the not. I am bad.
I am too. Yeah.
So you need to, so for people who are not clear at home, who are listening to this, if you say any sentence that sounds like a positive, but it has a negative word in it, remove the negative word and reread the sentence, and that's actually what you're putting out.
So that's so you know, true, Deb. That thing of you know, the thing of, like, as you say, saying to the universe, I want. Well, if the universe will you know, react by always letting you want, you know, you will always be wanting for it, because that's what you're asking for. And very good point about that thing about the negative. Don't, you know, you really have to understand the language that you use. And I was very lucky to be gifted an NLP weekend course, but I've forgotten how long it was for, but and that was very interesting in itself as well, because of, you know, I do the neuro-linguistic programming type thing. But it is as you say, you hear people and you think, and they're going, why is my life so shit? You know, and I think, well, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself, because it's people, I think a lot of people don't realize and understand what we're talking about, and then they wonder why everything's going so wrong. But it is purely in their everyday conversation, their language, their speed, what's coming out of their mouth is so, it might not be, oh, everything's terrible, it might not be that full on, but just on that level of, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's just like your language is so important. As you say, not to use the not, you know, just everything. I think people should really begin to be aware of what is coming out of their mouths, because it really does make a difference to their vibration. You know, and even people, I mean, I swear, I'm a swearer. I have always been a swearer, and
So am I.
and I, you know, sometimes when I'm doing these things, I think, don't say the F word, Blossom. You know, don't get so relaxed that you say the F word and everything, because I just don't think it's etiquette, really. But I do swear, but it's not, people say to me, you're the only person I know, Blossom, that can say the F word, and it doesn't seem to have that awful, you know, because I'm like, you know, because it's the intention behind that. But it's not just the swearing, it's just the negative connotation on on a normal sentence. And it's once you're into the understanding of how language works, it is so obvious to you why somebody is in that particular state. And I might say to somebody, well, but can I just pick you up on, listen to what you've just said.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. And I go, yeah, but da, da, da. It really is a skill that you need to learn, I think, because it is so helpful to remove all that is of the wrong vibration within that which comes out of your mouth.
And it is like I always say to anybody, if I can do this, anybody can do this. Because I used to see myself as the most broken. Oh, I'm just broken. I can't change anything about myself. And I just hated so much about myself. And really I just saw myself as what is this thing I've been given, And it took me a long time to exercise the muscles that made me into who I am today. And part of it, I will say honestly, if I can do this, anybody can do it. And it is exercise. And I kind of liken all of this to be very much like exercise. When you pick up an instrument, you can't play it immediately. You won't be able to play it immediately unless some crazy skill you have. But the point is that you need to pick it up. You need to practice it every day. If you don't practice it every day, it's going to sound not so enticing to people's ears. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the quicker you get at it. The quicker you get at it, the less you need to practice. And then if you drop the instrument for X amount of time, when you pick it back up, you might be halfway back down the ladder, but it's never going to be right back down at ground zero. And I kind of think anything to do with self-development, whether it's training yourself to speak positively, that by itself, if you want to manifest, if you want to become a master manifester, learn to speak more positively, but learn to catch your brain doing it, or learn to catch your brain not doing it, and rephrase yourself and get into the habit of saying, oh, do you know what? Hold on, I'm going to rephrase that. And actually you might think people will look at you like you're really odd because you've said something and then you go, actually, do you know what? I'm just going to rephrase that. People don't look at you differently at all. If anything, they kind of look and go, this person really knows what she's talking about, And I think if the instrument is practicing speaking more positively and catching yourself with those negative keywords, you're automatically raising your vibrations and you're automatically going to be able to manifest so much easier. So
and that I think one word that I struggled with was but. And I never use the word but anymore, because if you go, and you go, but, you're immediate, that word but takes the level down. And it took me a long time to go, well, what do you replace it with? And you replace it with and, which at first sounds really out of sync with what you're saying, but it actually works. You go, and the other one is yet. And I know the Federation of Light, who I work with, they use yet a lot, and that's exactly where we would normally put but but and yet are great replacements for but, because that but is a doubt, isn't it? That word but is a doubt. So for people who, as you say, many people know all this, but for people who don't, just even a simple word like that can change the vibration of what you're speaking about. And I agree with you, Deborah. I've said it before, but it's like I had a friend who was going through a lot of family troubles, and he came to stay with us. This was back in England, and I said, you really need to start thinking more positively, and otherwise, you've got to get on the positive train. And a couple of days later, I was like, oh, how are you feeling in that? And he went, and he said, I tried your positive thinking, but it didn't work. I was like, 2 days? 2 days of positive thinking? You're saying it doesn't work? I said, I've been doing it for years, and it doesn't, it is such a development, as you say, within yourself. And I was known as a manic depressive when I was younger, because I was just, I thought the world was so miserable with, goodness knows what. And so for me, like you, I have chosen to change my world around through positive thinking and through all that comes with that. And that positive vibration is what manifesting is all about, along with the trust, etc. But to change everything to positive is it's essential. In a sense, we have to understand that we're going to have negative days, and I did have a bit of a thing yesterday. I was thinking, oh dear, my mind's a bit and I was like, oh, this is all, whatever reason I was like that for. And I thought, you are allowed to feel these things. This is what you're feeling, so therefore you're thinking this. You're allowed to feel that way, and that's what's going on with you right now. But the trick is not to indulge in that, because it's when you stay in that you're in tricky, muddy waters, and you have to be able to pull yourself out and just get, as Abraham said, think one thought that is higher than what you're feeling now, to pull you out of this thing. And I totally agree that you're allowed to feel rough and go down in that bucket, for a little while and just go bleh. But then in the knowing that you won't allow yourself to stay there, you have to pull. It's very interesting, I think, because my mother had great troubles with depression, and she needed happy pills. And in the past, with different things I was given antidepressants and things like this. And I understand that there is a chemical reaction which some people need to allow the happy cells to start working, to pick up, and they do need that pickup. And yet at the same time, I think that it is so much more than just that. It is your work on yourself to bring yourself back into a happier state of being. It's your choice. And often these things aren't easy. It's much easier to go, do you know what? I'm going to sit and eat 5 packets of crisps, watching whatever movie, and just hate myself even more. It is so much easier to do that than to go, right,
And I totally suffer. I suffer the darkness completely in my lifetime. Like, I'm Scorpio rising. Anybody who's a Scorpio rising, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I totally, and I still do. And like, even through lockdown and that, like, I've had snotty tear fests that I call them, where I'm like into a pillow, desperately pleading with the universe, going, please help me, I can't handle it. But at the same time, what's so funny is, because when I finished that session, because they're normally an intense session, when I could come back out of it, and they get and this is part of the practice as well, for somebody who really has struggled a lot in my own lifetime with that. I've had to teach myself that it won't last forever, and that it will get better. And I have to remind myself when I'm in those depths that it will get better, and that it's not going to last forever. And I have to remind myself when I'm in those depths that it's actually my mind that's taking me there, and it's my mind indulging in that, because it sounds ridiculous. Sometimes it feels great to feel so miserable, as in it's a bit of a weird sadistic feeling, because you're indulging in it. But I found with my own practice that it gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And I've no doubt that it will always be there to some end, because we're human, and humans live in polarity. And, with the light is the dark, and with the yes is no, and with left is right, and with up is down. And what I have learned for myself is it's having compassion for the times that are harder, to pick yourself back up and move forward, is actually really what helps you, because it's never going to be rainbows and unicorns all the time. I feel that's my own belief. I think as a human, we have this desperate thing about, I call it pop spirituality. I talk about this a good bit. And I think there is a pop spirituality out there that we're all trying to levitate and become invisible and touch the other side. But like, we were not given human bodies for the crack, like we were in Ireland, the crack is fun. I'd like to clarify. People are like, the crack? for the drugs.
I'm with it. I've got you. Yeah, no, I've got you. Yeah, yeah.
But I think that it's a thing that we need to stop kind of. It's just another way of looking at it, basically. But I think that when we're manifesting, excuse me, getting back to the manifesting side, that's part of that. It's that mindful thinking, and it's like recently, as I said, when I was going through my tough times, because things are changing so much, I started my own. I was looking at Bruce Lipton, and he talks a lot about your environment, and your environment is your words that you're putting out into your environment. So I started to change my little mantra. My little mantra is, I'm bliss. I am. I am is really.
I am.
Everything is really.
So,
I am.
Yeah.
And mine is, I am blissfully happy and contented, and so many wonderful things keep coming to me. I'm surrounded by warm, loving, heart-centered people and friends, and abundance comes so easily to me. And I started to say that over and over and over and over again, any minute that I had spare, because things were just so crap. And I just kept repeating it all the time, just as I was washing dishes.
Yeah.
And I swear, within about a week or 2 weeks, outside got brighter. It was more sunny. I started figuring out, my path a lot easier. Things that I was confused on that weren't working just suddenly randomly started opening up with a lot more ease for me. And that's my mantra. And actually it's the same as Bruce Lipton saying it's about changing your environment, and your environment is your thoughts. You are your own petri dish. You are
so true. It's so true. And I know, like, at the moment, the the Federation have this thing of the I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth, I am. But people, and that in itself is, they say, is coded, and it's very very poignant. But people write in, they go, oh, I hope it's all right. But I've also added, for me, I am whatever it might be. It's what suits you. I think the more people can find their truth, like yours, it was beautiful, Deborah, then that, because that resonates with you and what feels right for you. So the more you can make your own up, which feels right for you, then I think that's great. And I truly, it's like the I'm the light, I'm the love. Even if you're not in that mood, you still say it, because it will be, it is part of you. And it's so true that your world is your world alone, because of how you choose to think. And I've also said before, I don't know why it came about for me, but whenever I'm aware of me having a negative thought, I literally go, oh, and I throw up a tennis ball in my mind and I whack it into oblivion, so that's gone and I can remove it. Because, as a child, I remember sort of like when I was 12, 13, 14, I don't know if it was the actress in me and the imagination in me, but I used to go on the biggest journeys in my head of my parents being killed in a car crash. And you know what I mean? Just absolute, when I look at it now, absolute needing attention. It was what it was about, I guess. And I said, God, and I used to make this whole movie up in my head and blah, 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 blah. And whereas, when I look back now, I think, God, that was just so, well, wrong. It was wrong, but I mean, it was part of who I was. So now I'm very, very aware, because that's another thing about the language and the thought of, so many people, something might happen and they'll go, oh my God, I thought, and you think, why did you think that? Why go down that path when it is so unnecessary? And I think that's the same, with people with illnesses, and not in, I'm not saying everybody make by any stretch of the imagination. I always have this little joke. I saw it on a card of 3 people sitting in a doctor's waiting room, and one of them saying, oh, I wasn't here last week. I wasn't feeling very well. And that's so true, that so many people, they get a little mark on their hand and they're like, oh, it's cancer, I've got to go to the doctors. It's like, I'm like, why would you even think that about anything? Because I've trained my brain not to think that way. And I think, that there has to be so much recognition within the self of that is negative, that doesn't serve me, and to really only use the thoughts, that do. You just have to really become aware of yourself and what you're thinking. Do it right. Because I don't know, but then I'm not blaming or judging anybody. It's just because they don't know the difference.
They don't know any different.
Some do, and they don't bother, do they?
Yeah, well, there's that as well. But
that's up to them.
I think in general, it's just that kind of thing, that it's just awareness. And that's what Intrepid Wisdom is about. Intrepid Wisdom is literally about widening your perspective, giving you a different understanding, giving you something to think about. Like if anything resonates with, it's just to give people a curiosity to go, oh, I could apply that for 20 minutes today and see how my day goes. I could apply it for an hour tomorrow and see how that goes, and just keep increasing it. But I'd love to know, actually, like in terms of, I had this random thought this morning. So this could be like welcome to Deborah's brain, and you might not want to be in there. You might want to press stop now. But I do believe that there's lots of different timelines, loads of different timelines. And one question that I kind of have often or that I kind of mull over every now and again for myself is, if we're creating everything, if we are manifesting our entire reality, then how are you manifesting your reality, and how am I manifesting my reality, and how do they interchange and lock into each other or affect each other? And it's a well-oiled machine of different cogs. But this morning I actually was having a coffee. I was in my sunroom, and there was a photograph of my dad there, and I went, hi Dad. My dad passed away in 2015, and I just for some random reason said hello to him. And then I just started thinking of these different timelines and manifesting and whatever, and I was kind of thinking, and I'd love to know your idea, this is just a little thought, but if we're manifesting our own reality and we're on lots of different timelines, then are you manifesting your own different reality and I don't even see that, and you're on a completely different timeline with different outcome? Do you know what I mean?
Stop.
But do you know what I mean? What I'd love to know,
my God,
how are we manifesting our own reality when you're in my reality? Does that make sense?
I know what you mean. And there's 1,000 billion questions we could ask ourselves about all that kind of thing. It's like I get. It's only recently that ridiculous as it sounds, that I sort of get what a timeline is. You know what I mean? I'm just like, well, what is everybody talking about? This timeline and this paradigm and all this. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. But I just think it's like, I think there is just so much that we just cannot understand. We just can't. I mean, the questions I get asked to ask the Federation, it's like, I don't even know what the question means, let alone them answer, blah, blah, blah. And I think we have to accept that there is so much we simply cannot know about at this time. Well, there might be people that go, you're wrong, Blossom, because I can, I've been out there. I mean, I know people who are for real, and I totally trust their truth, that they do go out there, they do go up in ships, they do travel the universe, and they, I don't feel for a minute they're making it up. So, they might know a lot more than I am able to understand. And they do say that when we pass over, we know it. We have that all-knowing type of thing. I just think down here, we are not a universal encyclopedia. We do not have the answers to everything down here. And for me, as it goes with what you're talking about, of like, am I in your world? Are you in mine? How are we done? I've got no idea. I don't understand any of that. I don't understand so many things. And then I go, oh God, this is all too hard. And then I go, so what do you understand, Blossom? I understand love. I understand that. I think when we can try and seek all these answers that we're never going to get. And I know there are scientists and things like that who are on a different plane than me. I mean, I totally get that, you know, their brains are very, very different from mine, and people understand so much more of certain things than I do. But I think whoever you are, at the end of the day, when you go, I can't take anymore, then what does make sense? And that is love. That to me is like, that I can get why I'm here, you know, as opposed to what timeline am I on? Are you in my world? Am I in yours? Don't get that, but I do get that I am here to shine my light. And where that comes from, I don't know. It just feels so strong inside of me. It's so strong that that's what I'm here to do, even though I don't always feel I'm doing my, you know, the best I could. But there, have a bad day, have a good day. For me, I think if we can all feel that inside, that we are here to shine our light and to anchor the light, to see this through this time that we're going through, then really, does it matter whether I know about that timeline or that timeline? And I don't understand that if people think, you know, at the moment necessarily, if people are like, oh, I need a vaccination when it comes out, you know, to stop, I need a COVID vaccination. Does that mean they are on that timeline and that will happen for them? And I'm going, I will, you know, shoot me first, I will not have a vaccination, and I'm on that timeline. I don't know, because I just don't know. We can't know it all, but they do say there is, I do believe everything is possible, everything. And I do believe there's probably, I don't know how many of me on different planets, another part of me on this planet at this time, you know, and I'm there being an ant somewhere else or whatever. It is just infinite possibilities. And I reckon within all of that, that ant or that whatever will all be going back to love, because that is in essence what we are. And all we're doing, like with the manifesting and that, because I think it is such fun to manifest. It's like, right, and then when it happens, you're like, yes, you know, it's so exciting that the universe, you know, as you say, whatever has heard your call and delivering it on your doorstep, you know, that fun, that positive thinking, that whole way of becoming who you are in light and love is all part of the fun of it and why we're here. You know, and it doesn't have to be, and I know these times are very, very difficult, you know, but at the same time, we, as you say, we don't have to, you know, people in lockdown, you know, have been in lockdown for a long time. That's tricky choice to, you know, I know people who have taken it on board. They've written this, they've written a play, they've become yoga masters, you know, and I've known people who have put on like 20 kilos, you know, and just gone into a slump. It is your choice. And choices aren't all, the choices are easy, but actually putting them into practice is yet another thing.
Well, a choice is easy. A bad choice is easy to make. A good choice is easy to make. Do you know what I mean? But it depends what your mindset is for it. Absolutely. Yeah. And it is mindset. Like I feel, I think to kind of give a takeaway of, if somebody wanted to go off and manifest something, you know, today at some point, I would say clear up your mindset and your language to just be a little bit more clear in what you want, and to make sure that there's no negative words in there, or turn it into a positive sentence. I would say to feel it. Like, as you say, that but is like you cancelling your order. You know, if you're pressing your order and you're about to press send and you go, but you don't press the order, do you know?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's kind of cancelling it. So yeah, it's about your words, your intention, your focus. I know there's have you ever heard of Tesla's 369?
No.
So it's another thing that's out there, but it's the same version again. You had Nikola Tesla, who was a famous inventor. He essentially said, if people knew the power of 369, they'd have the keys to the universe. And so essentially what you're doing is working with these sacred numbers, if you will.
Yeah.
So, you know, you
Yeah.
can manifest by writing something down. Abraham Hicks, I think, says it takes 17 seconds
Yeah, 17 seconds.
to set your
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
And then using Tesla's 369, you can write it, you know, your intention down 3 times in the morning, 6 times at lunchtime, and 9 times in the evening. And it
Okay.
does work because I've done it, but actually the only reason that it's working is because I believe it works. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's whatever you believe will get you what you want. Use it.
Sure.
Whatever
Sure.
it is.
Because there are, you know, like your picture of your house and all that, and you know, vision boards. People, I know a lot of people who have the whole vision board thing, which I think is a great thing if you're into doing that. So you can, you know, you can put up there and look at what you want, and you know, and all that kind of thing. There are just so many ways to allow you to have what you want. You know, people, I think the thing is, as you say, you have to believe it. You have to not just believe it, but you have to know it, because unless you know that that's how it works and it does work, then you're not, it's not going to work because you're doubting it. You know, putting the doubt in there, like, oh, you know, I hope it works. Well, that's not going to do any good either. You're going to always be hoping. You're not going to get the finished product. You know, it really is, I think, about that knowing, that certainty, that trust, and sometimes there is that thing, Deborah, you know, which has happened to me, I guess. But I know of somebody here in Australia. You can buy a ticket for $15, and they have them a lot. And especially around where we live, there's quite a lot. And you can literally win this house and all its contents. And it could be on the beach, you know, and the highest tech TVs in it. And it's amazing for $15. And everybody, you know, a lot of money goes into that because people go, well, you know, and you can go in and you buy a ticket and you look around. And so you can you know, you can visualize yourself being there. And there was one friend of mine there was a house sort of just up the road from where I was. And she was like, that's mine. That house is mine. To the point that she even had a key cut, just a key to her normal, you know, house. And she put a little bit of material from her wedding dress onto the little key ring. And at night, she snuck in and she buried it in the soil, in the grass there.
Wow.
So determined was she that this house was hers, and it wasn't. Now that you can go, and I know another friend also, because these houses, everybody's going, that's mine, that one's mine, I'll be you know, we're all going, no, I'm moving into that one, but because they're just beautiful houses. And but I know another friend who literally, because the house was drawn on Christmas Eve, and she didn't buy any Christmas presents or anything because she knew this house, that was going to be everybody's Christmas. She didn't get that either. So, you know, why? And yet all her intention was on that. So I think there are times, this is the only way I can understand it, perhaps. There are times when the universe perhaps knows that which you're after is not for your highest intention. And we think it is, but it actually isn't. And I think that's quite an important thing to accept, because otherwise you would be like, well, I did everything possible. What did I do wrong? You know, it didn't happen. And I was so sure it would. So I think at times we have to, if I may say, you know, I don't mind saying this at all, but I really wanted a second child. I really, really wanted a second child. And it was just something so strong within me. And anyway, long story short, I did get pregnant and I had a miscarriage. And it was just for me personally, a really strong thing and upsetting thing in my life, because I wanted this second child so badly, you know, so badly. And it turned out, you know, I kept trying for a long time. You know, I was going to be this old grandmother with you know, I was like, I won't give up, you know, and then menopause happened, this, and it became very, very clear that I was not going to have the second child. Now, down the track, when I look back, it's worked out so well, because I kept trying for so long that, like, a few years ago, I would have had a 12-year-old kid, you know what I mean, or whatever it was going to be, that just would not have fitted into my life at all. Through so much pain, I went through so much pain wanting that child that I never got. But now there are so many reasons that I can look back and understand why it never happened, you know. And so I think we have to, and I've got three, you know, I've now got 7 grandchildren, I've got 3 stepchildren, you know, I've got a huge sort of family, but it's just, I think there are times when you have to accept that perhaps that just isn't on your pathway this time. And as hard as it may be to accept certain things, they don't come about for your highest good, which you don't quite understand being down here on the planet, you know.
And I think that's important as well. You know, it's great as humans, it's great to know that there's this tool called manifesting that we can use to bring about abundance into our life and, you know, everything that we want. My own experience with manifesting personally, and this may be because this is my belief and that's how it works for me, has been, you know, for me personally, I believe you can't receive unless you give, is my own experience. And so it can't be like me, I'm going to get everything, and me, without giving to others first. And it's,
Yes.
I have actually found in my own life, when I've been stuck in the me, I phase, is actually when I'm like, why aren't things working for me? And it's when I begin to give, when I'm stopped focusing on myself solely and what I'm trying to achieve, when I remember that there's a whole world around me and there's actually a lot of things that I can do in the world to be of service in the world, where actually it makes me feel great to be of service. And I don't do it just to get back, but I do it because I feel good, and it feels good to give, and it feels good to be able to help other people selflessly. But I have noticed when I've done that, everything comes back like a boomerang to me. Like, and it's literally, that's when my manifestation works the best, because when I'm giving, then I can receive better. And I think that that's actually a really, really important thing for people to understand as well. That, and, you know, you need to be careful how you're playing God sometimes, because, you know, if you're going to ask for all these, if you're going to ask for all these things, what are you going to give back? Do you know, if you're going to ask for the house and ask for the Lamborghini and ask for everything, what are you going to give back as a means of feeling grateful and having gratitude for all that you've been given? And if it's just that you want to be happier, then, you know, go out and do some nice things as well. But that's just my own little.
No, I totally agree. You know, it's such a good point, Deborah, because, you know, for me, that people have trouble receiving. I think people find it difficult to receive sometimes, you know, and you might sort of, a nice gesture, like, I don't know, just even take flowers to somebody, you know, just say, oh, you know, just randomly bought you some flowers or whatever, and they're like, oh no, you shouldn't. Well, why shouldn't I? You know, just go, thank you. Don't do all this, oh no, I'm not worthy type of stuff. You know, yes, you are. That's why I bought them for you. That being able to receive, I think, as well, is a recognition. You need to recognize for yourself that you are worthy. I mean, that's another thing I think to do with the manifesting, that if you don't think you're worthy enough to receive it, then it won't give it to you, because it's saying, oh, you don't think you're good enough, so I best keep it away. So I think you have to really, that thing of worthiness is such a important thing, I think, you know, and how it just made me think about how often people, and myself, but I try not to, in the supermarket, if I'm standing next to a person and we're not even in each other's way, we go sorry to each other. Well, for what? You know, we say sorry too often, you know, which is making ourselves go, we're not worthy. And I really, you know, as I say, I was a manic depressive and blah, 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 and all this, and, you know, I've changed my life, and of course I'm worthy. I am as worthy as every other being on this planet to receive all that this planet has to offer me. And I totally, I mean, I dear God, I never used to think that. But now I do. I know that we are all, deserving of all good things. We just are, if you people, whatever you want to call God, the universe, love, we weren't put on this planet to have a bad time, actually. We were put on this planet to have fun and manifest all the good things that we can. So I think we have to, we have to learn to receive with grace. And honor that receiving. And also I agree with you so much. It doesn't, if you haven't got loads of money, we're not saying give somebody $50, but just to say to somebody, could you look really lovely today? And then they'll go, oh no, what, in this old thing? Just say thank you. Say thank you, but receive that compliment. It's just, there are so many ways, aren't there, to be able to give to people. You don't have to have a lot of money or anything like that. It's just, and then you do fight, because that's the way the universe works, I think. As you say, it's a back and forth. It's, you give out, and Whitecloud says this about money, because a lot of people have said, money, how can you manifest money? And his thing, and I think it's so true, is he says, if people, can I bring him in, Deborah?
Oh, go for it, yeah.
just suddenly, I hadn't even thought about it, but
a warm welcome to you, and Blossom and I are very happy to be chatting with you once again. I like the opportunity to pop in when I can these days, just to assist and give my opinion or my thoughts on certain things. So regarding that, what I have said in the past is, here you both are talking about love and how easy it is to give, because it is a loving thing to do and it comes from your heart. And therefore, the more you give out of love, the more love is received by you. It is law, so to speak. So think of that. Why is it that you may have a coin or a note and you think, I better hang on to this, because if I give this away, that is depleting my stash, if you like. Yet, if you apply the same principle of, here, let me allow this to flow, have this, or I will buy this, or I have a bill, yippee, I will use this to pay for it. If you change your attitude to the energy of that piece of paper, and you give it with love, and you give it willingly, do you think the principle is going to change just because it is money? No, it is your thought upon it. And so give your money, spend your money. I am not saying go mad. There are limits, of course, but that if you want abundance financially, then allow it to flow. If you keep your money shut indoors, getting stale and it is not being used for what it is there to be used for. So if you freely, with everything, say, thank you that I have this. And if it is that you have a bill to pay, but it is your last bit of money, etc. Still, as difficult as you may find it, give it from your heart. Give it in the knowing that by giving it out with love, the universe will bring more. You say when you love, you give love and you receive it 1,000-fold. It is the same principle. So that is all that I would like to pop in to say today, to know of that. It is with everything, as you were so very correctly saying, that which you give out you shall receive back. And that, of course, that is, wait, I've lost my word. That, of course, applies to that which is negative also. So that, you have to know that that which you give out that is negative, or that which you say about another which is not kind, that will come back to you 1,000-fold also. So as you were speaking, also be very careful about what comes out of your mouth, about what you think, because it is so important for your well-being to be aware of that which you say, that which you think, because as you correctly said, it is all about you, really. It is like a springboard. It bounces back. So do that. So I just wanted to say that was all about the money, because so many people find that to be a tricky matter. And it isn't. Again, it is the trusting of it, because you might say, well, I have this $10 and I could either buy that thing I want with it, or I could hold on to it because money is pretty short this week. What are you saying? Money is pretty short this week. But if you say, I would like that thing for $10, how wonderful. I deserve it. I am worthy of it. You watch how the universe will bring something in. Maybe not in the way that you think. That is the surprise and the excitement of it. Abundance comes to you in the most miraculous, mysterious of ways. And that is the game. That is the fun of it, that something can come to you which would have been the last possible way you thought you would receive that which you wanted. But it will work when you trust it and you know it. And that, I will say, is my little piece for the morning. So thank you very much indeed for letting me be part of this presentation. Many thanks to you and you.
There we go.
You know what was so interesting was whatever we were talking about just before that in my head, and I think you were saying about, spending or something, and I literally was thinking, and I was about to say a lot of what I just said, and I was nodding going, I was so going to say that. Because I've actually done that. I remember years ago learning that, even when you're down to your last, if you give it away with trust and with love, if you give it away with love, I'm not saying everybody has to go do it, because you need to be doing it from the right mindset in order for this to actually work. So if you're going out and you're giving away your money hoping that something's going to happen, you're not in the right mindset, it's not going to work.
It's intention.
Yeah, but I've done that before, and I've when I was traveling, I won't necessarily go into what I did, but there was a couple of things that I actually did, and it was done with absolute love. Didn't have a huge amount in my pocket, and the world, my God, I got everything back. Like, it really, really came back a million-fold, and it was because I do feel it's because I did it with love and without fear that was my last. So even if it was my last, somebody else, it was somebody else's. My last was somebody else didn't have a last. They didn't have anything. Kind of way. No matter how bad things were for me, I still had a rucksack on my back. I still had a plane ticket home, and it didn't matter. Somebody else was worse off than me, and actually it just worked out. It was incredible how it worked out. So.
And that's a good point too, Deborah. I think is like to trust that you will just be looked after when you know that. And I know that I will be looked after, because I always have been, no matter how rough, no matter how smooth my life has been at times, I know I will be looked after. And like, people, our kids are like, they discuss, who's going to get the granny flat in the garden for me and my husband when we're older. And we're going, how do you know we want to go in your granny flat? You know what I mean? They go, but you haven't got any money. Got no savings. What are you going to do if you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, even if we end up in a bus shelter, we will be looked after. And it just hasn't come into a pattern of being for my husband and I that we have a lot. It just hasn't, that we've got, that we're all, my husband's 72, that we've got all these savings. That no, we haven't yet. And yet I have friends who are so like, well, I'm working for this and I'm doing that and I've put that aside for this, and I'm like, it's not a world I'm in, because we just don't have it there, type of thing. Because they say, but what are you going to do, Blossom? What are you going to do, Blossom? I go, I do what I do now. I just live my life. And my life truly isn't about money. It is about what feels right, what feels good for me to do, what makes me happy, because then, there is this thing of I, but also I believe that by being the best and the happiest and giving yourself the best you can, then that vibration you're on is serving the whole, because you're giving out that vibration. So I don't, maybe we will be in a bus shelter. You know what I mean? It's somebody will chuck us a loaf of bread. I don't know, but I'll be all right. And I never worry about it. And that's, I think, as people are getting older, there obviously is that concern of, well, we're not going to have, what are we going to do in our old age? How are we going to survive this, that, and the other? And truly, I don't know many people like myself and my husband who feel this way, but I truly don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So why should I be worrying about 10 years, 20 years down, if I'm still alive, 20 years down the track, as to how my financial situation is going to be? The world could have disintegrated by then. So I'm not going to worry about whether I've got 20 bucks in the bank. It isn't. I feel very blessed to have this mindset and to feel this way, because it takes away so much stress in life. It really, when I see how people are so intent on making sure they've got this and this, that, and the other, and I just don't. I've never had it, because it's always proved that I'll be looked after. I mean, if you saw where I lived and the place, where we live, my husband and I always go, we live here, from where I came in England was nothing, and we've manifested the like paradise on earth to live, through the same thing. We manifested it. People say, you're so lucky. It's nothing to do with luck, is it? And I don't mean that condescendingly or anything to anybody. It's nothing to do with luck. It's to do with yourself and choices you make and see through, I think,
And I think fear as well is just while we were talking about, or you mentioned the word fear, if you want something really quickly, be afraid of it. Like if you want to manifest something really, really quickly, the best way of manifesting something the quickest way you want possible is to be really afraid of it. And you'll have it
in your face. Yeah.
So if you can use that concept and turn that on its head, way, like think of if you can imagine, for people who are listening, if you can imagine the emotional content of something that you fear, if you can apply that same emotional content to something that you'd like to have in your life right now, not in the future, but you would like to feel that now, then that's the same intensity that you need to manifest it straight away or as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
are we done, Deborah? What are we
done? We could keep going, Blossom. And do you know what? Once again, I could keep going, and I'm looking at time going, God, I'm going to have to cut it short. Just a bit short. So I don't know. Can I ask you what your intrepid wisdom is in terms of manifestation? How would you? What would you like to pass on to people in terms of manifestation?
Really, it's, for me, I would say the vibration, be in the vibration of that which you are desiring, imagining yourself having it, and feeling as if you've got it, and hold on to that feeling. because that makes you feel good anyway. And to, as we say, the language you use and thinking positively, just it's a long journey. It's a long journey, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it, to just keep your thoughts positive and your words in a positive fashion. To get in alignment with yourself and all that is, and allow it just to, when you are in alignment and in a great place, it falls from the sky, it really does. So really, that would be my intrepid wisdom of the day.
And I would say for anybody who's listening, place your order as though you're placing an order online. Press the payment button in kindness and love. This is very cheesy, isn't it?
No.
This could get very cheesy. Press the button with kindness and love and wait for the postman to arrive and trust that the postman will arrive. And don't say but. Don't cancel your order. Forget about it and just know that the postman is going to knock on your door.
Absolutely. And don't put a time on it, let the universe provide the divine timing of it.
Yeah. And just remember that God knows the plan better than you do, or the universe knows the plan better.
Yeah, indeed.
Great. It was just so lovely to have you again. I have such a ball when we're having a chat. I really do.
Well, it's just like having a cuppa. I think one of the comments somebody sent in was with our last one we did. It's just like they could have been there having a cuppa with us, it's not that we know any more than anybody else, really. We're just chewing the cud, as they say, and just sharing for those who have not yet understood certain things, really. So
we definitely don't know it all. Absolutely. There's so much to learn. We could change our minds tomorrow morning as well. But
and that's it. I think, Deborah, that like just if one sentence you or I have said today has helped somebody in some way, Whitecloud always says, if you can turn but one person around, you have done well, so that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Just helping each other get there, wherever it is we're going.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. Inspiration. That's all.
Yeah.
So
darling, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a total pleasure. Yeah. We'll have to do it again, Blossom.
Oh, we will, on some other subject.
So for anybody who's listening to the podcast or watching the video, don't forget to like, comment and share to let me know you care. To stay up to date, hit the subscribe button and bell to receive notifications. And for podcast links, and Blossom's also going to give us her links as well for your little gift. Check out intrepidwisdom.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And there is now a donate button. So if you are liking what's happening, if you're liking the conversations, be sure to hit the donate button. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. And in the meantime, stay curious.
Thanks.